All right, let's get right into it. We're going to break down the absolute best evidence-backed study strategies from some of the smartest students and creators out there. Our goal is to show you how to study less, but way more effectively. It's simple, really. Higher grades without giving up your entire life to get them.
Oh man, we have all been there, right? You spend days, maybe even a whole week, locked away with your books. You're highlighting, rereading, making your notes look perfect. You're skipping hangouts with friends. You're on your third coffee, and you feel totally fried. And for what? An average grade? It is just, the worst feeling.
But here's a wild thought. What if the problem isn't your work ethic? What if it's not about how smart you are? What if the real issue is that the study techniques most of us were taught are just kind of broken? You know, inefficient, outdated, and just not designed for how our brains are actually wired to learn.
And that leads us straight into what I call the studying trap. It's this nasty, vicious cycle where we think the only solution to not getting the grades we want is to just throw more and more time at the problem. But honestly, that usually just makes things worse.
So let's get one thing crystal clear right now. The idea that more hours in the library automatically equals better grades, it's a total myth. I mean, students from MIT, Yale, and top productivity gurus all say the same thing. Bragging about a 10-hour study session isn't a badge of honor. It's usually a red flag for inefficiency.
And this brings us to the one core principle that completely changes the game. It's all about quality over quantity. It's about shifting your entire mindset from how long you study to how well you study.
And this just puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? For years, the metric for being a good student was how many hours you could log at your desk. But the new goal, the effective goal, is all about your retention rate. How much of the stuff you're studying actually sticks in your brain? That, right there, is the only number that really matters.
Now this is a really cool way to think about it. Consumption versus digestion. See, we spend almost all our time and energy on consumption. You know, reading the textbook, watching the lecture, taking in the info. But if that information just goes in one ear and right out the other, what was the point? The real learning, the magic, happens during digestion, when your brain is actively wrestling with the material and storing it away.
And wow, this slide just shows you the incredible power of that shift. Let's say you study passively for 5 hours, but you only retain a miserable 10%. That's about 30 minutes of real learning. Now imagine you study actively for just 1 hour, but with a 50% retention rate. You've gotten the exact same result in 1/5 of the time. This isn't a gimmick. It's just working smart.
So the big question is, how do we actually do this? Well, it all starts before you even open a single book. This is part 1, planning your attack. Now I know this might sound a little like a cheesy motivational poster, but stick with me because it's real. Your brain pretty much does what you tell it to do. If you sit down thinking, this is going to be torture, guess what? It will be. But if you tell yourself, this is easy, I'm going to get this done quick, you actually create focus and momentum. Your mindset has a real, measurable effect on your performance.
This leads us to a fundamental law of productivity that is so important, Parkinson's law. It's a super simple idea, but it has huge implications. Basically, work expands to fill the time you give it. If you give yourself an entire day to finish one chapter, it's going to take you the entire day. Your brain just chills out and works at a slower pace.
So, how do you beat the clock? You create a sense of urgency. First, just estimate how long a task should realistically take. Then, and this is the key, shave off about 10 or 20% of that time. Set a timer and just go. That little bit of pressure forces your brain to focus, cuts out the procrastination, and gets you straight to the point. You'll be shocked at what you can get done.
And the final piece of the setup is all about priorities. Don't try to learn 100% of the material with equal effort. Instead, use the 80-20 rule. Find that 20% of concepts, the ones your professor keeps mentioning, or the topics that show up on every single past exam. That's the stuff that will probably get you 80% of your grade, so focus your energy there first.
Okay, you've planned your attack. You're set up for success. Now it's time for the main event, the study session itself. This is where we put active learning into practice. This is the real workout for your brain.
This slide right here is absolutely critical. On the left, you see the classic stuff we all do. Rereading chapters, highlighting half the page, making our notes look super pretty. It feels productive, but it's incredibly passive and your retention is terrible. Now look at the right.
These are the high-retention, active methods. They force your brain to pull information out, which is the key to building strong, lasting memories.
So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, here's your toolkit. The single most effective method that literally everyone talks about is doing practice exams and past papers. It's the ultimate form of active recall. You can also work backwards. Look at the chapter summary and answers first so you know what's important. Turn your notes into questions. Use AI to generate quizzes for you. Make it fun with apps like Quizlet. And crucially, focus on the stuff you don't know, not just the easy stuff that makes you feel smart. So you did it. You finished your focused, active study session. But you're not quite done yet. The final piece of the puzzle is what you do after the session to make sure that knowledge actually stays in your brain for the long haul. This is the cool down. Let's talk about cramming for a second. It is the sworn enemy of long-term memory. The best analogy I've heard is this. Cramming is like trying to eat all of your food for the entire week in one giant painful sitting. It's just not going to work. Spaced repetition, on the other hand, is like eating healthy, regular meals. It gives your brain time to digest and actually absorb the information between sessions. And the best way to use spaced repetition is with a reinforcement loop. After any practice test, the first thing you do is gather up every single mistake you made. And don't just glance at the right answer. Really understand why you got it wrong. Then, schedule time to review those specific weak spots again tomorrow, then in a few days, then in a week. This is how you systematically turn your weaknesses into strengths.
So if you only take one single thing away from all of this, please let it be this. The goal is not to be the person who studied the longest. The goal is to be the person who learned the most efficiently. So stop counting the hours and start making the hours count.
And that brings us to the end. You know, the theory is great, but taking action is what really matters. So I'll leave you with this one question. Looking at your own study routine right now, what is the one passive, inefficient habit, whether it's mindless rereading or making pretty notes, that you are going to replace with an active strategy starting today?